am. And when I look into that deep void of wondering who I am, it is absolutely terrifying because I don't know. And in order to have a great brand, I have to get through all of my stuff and understand who I am, that seems like too long a walk and too hard a journey. And so, yes, there's some degree to which you have to come to terms with who you are and what you do, but at the same time, you don't have to plumb the depths of your soul to be able to find a brand that's compelling and a business that works for you. And I say this because I get caught in it too. You start to be like, well, what am I? I identified as a writer for a long time. Then I was a magazine editor. I was a radio host. And the day I got laid off from both, I was going down in the elevator from the 36th floor at the Sirius XM building, and I started to just cry because I realized that all the labels I used for myself and all the things I said that I wasn't anymore. And I thought, well, doesn't that mean that I'm kind of nothing? Now, that was like a real deep, dark day, but of course you're not nothing based on the title that you have right now. So you do have to go under the surface. But what we're going to do today, and this is the only thing we're going to start to do, is kick the beehive on your brand. Now, how do you know your brand? And I'm talking about your professional brand, the brand that you work to raise, money for and money about all the time. Hang on, Periscope just crashed. Periscope needs to get its act together. How you know that you're stuck is, well, first of all, hang on. God damn it. Sorry. So annoying. You know what, forget it. 3 things. First of all, obviously, and this, by the way, is, yes, for your business, your brand, or even your own brand as you are floating from one job to the other. That it works for this too. But when you're not getting the business you want, maybe you're not getting any business, which is a big problem in and of itself. But you're getting business, but it's not the business you want. And you're doing stuff for the money. You're doing stuff because you can do those things, and your brand can provide those things. But what happens is you are afraid that if you limit your focus or limit your approach, then you're going to lose. So you're afraid of knocking people out. You say, oh, but I want to help everyone. I don't want to lose. Oh, my God, I don't have enough business. I certainly don't want to push away people that are already there. But as soon as you start trying to be a jack of all trades and trying to be something for everyone, you end up doing a lot of things you don't like. And as a brand, you try to stretch yourself that thin, there's no brand there. And so one thing is you're doing a lot of things and you're trying to service a lot of needs that really aren't in your sweet spot, right? The second thing is your brand as it is, how you're handling it and what it means to you feels safe. It feels really comfortable. And if it's comfortable for you and you're like, oh, but it works, is it working? Is it growing and doing as much as it possibly can? Because the problem is you work to establish some kind of comfort zone because it's so uncomfortable to not know who you are or what you stand for. And then when you find something safe, well, why would you go and kick the beehive on that and make all the bees fly out? Why would you start to be uncomfortable? Because if you're not a little uncomfortable, it means you're not taking any kind of risk with where you are. And you're afraid of pushing the envelope a little bit. You're afraid of limiting, afraid people won't, like you or won't want to buy from you and all of that stuff. And then the third thing, how you know that you're not at your fighting weight as a brand, is that you're striving to be competitive instead of different, which you've heard that, right? If you're trying to be like everyone else and just charge less, that's a losing battle. It's a losing battle. And so, of course, you're going to look at people whose brands you like and models you like, but if you're trying to do what they do, you know that that isn't what you do. Are you with me? Are you with me with this? I think I'm maybe a little too much muscle and not enough fat. Maybe I need to slow down a little bit. So one of the things that I ask is, when a brand is new, okay, when you're new, you have your new website up, or you're trying to figure out who you are, there's a lot of, and I see this with startups and newer companies all the time, even older ones, if they're real kind of stodgy, is that they spend a lot of time talking about who they are. I am this, I've done this and this and this, I've done all these things, I have all these riches, I'm worth so much money, but when it comes to telling me what I should buy from you, you don't know. You just want me to see all of your achievements and see all that your brand is and does, or all that your business does, and kind of buy on that. But no one's buying on all of that, right? They are doing it because of one thing they need. And so the issue becomes, Am I providing just information on me and making the consumer, customer, audience, whatever, make the decision about what I should do with them? Like, are you making me, your customer, decide what to do with you? I see this so many times. I was on a call with a small lodge, okay, out in the far-flung, like in nature, and their website is like, oh, we're beautiful, we're in a beautiful part of the country, and we're really pretty. That was their selling point. It's wonderful, but you're not. That's great. Okay, so your website's about you, but you're not telling me what I want. They're offering an experience that you can't get in everyday life, but they're caught up in the fact that they have nice setting. Well, they're in a beautiful setting in this part of the country. That's not enough. Same thing with you. You could be, you know, when one of my first iterations of my website was like, oh, I do all these things. I'm a writer, I'm an editor, I could do this, I write about that, I get blah, 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 and I did all these things. But there's not a goddamn person who came to my site who would know what to do with me when they got there. Okay, so you're cool, you're doing cool stuff. What do you do again? And whether it's personal for you and your personal brand or your business, if the customer has to say, well, what do you do again? That's a problem. So, of course, this is not going to be new to you either, but this is the question you have to ask is, what problem are you solving, not what can you do? And this is why I say you have to go from thinking in terms of being task-oriented, oh, I write this, I can create this, I do this, to what need of mine are you serving? That sounds so obvious, and I'm certainly the billionth person to say it, but I can't say it enough, because in my individual coaching sessions, people they can't narrow down. And I'll tell you what they say. They say, well, I'm really passionate about helping people. And I say, and? You know, like I've said recently that saying you're passionate is like saying you're busy. Everyone is. And if you say to me, well, I'm so busy and so passionate, I'm like, yeah, and so am I. Like, what are you trying to do, out-passion me? Like, the passion thing doesn't work. To me, you have to say, this is what I help people do. And no one has struggled with that as much as me, because I like to do so many things, and I don't want to limit myself, and there's all of that. But the beginning game of this, to get it rolling, to get traction, to do any kind of innovation, is to figure out what the heck you're doing uniquely. Not all the things you can do, but the one thing you can do the most well. And then there's the fear, right? Well, if I do that thing, what if no one wants it? Well, if your one thing you feel like doing is knitting, unless you can make me one hell of a sock, you're right. I don't know that I'm going to need that. You can't be looking to the world to affirm your life choice, right? It's more like, how does the thing you want to do help me? I have had the wonderful opportunity of being able to media coach with a company called To Market Media, where they take individual brands and scale them to big personalities. They are terrific at what they do, and I've learned and gained a lot of insight from them. And one of the things I do is teach people how to speak in the media. Here's how to talk in the media, here's what to say, how to say it. But what I realized was that I could tell someone what to say all day. I can play ventriloquist. But if that person didn't really believe it, it was a very hard sell. Right? Really hard to say, and then no one wants to narrow down and pick a thing and say, well, this is what I do. Now, I thought the media coaching, I do think the media coaching is a lot of fun, but I started to feel like, media coach doesn't feel like the only thing I do. I mean, it seemed really low rent in the fact that it was just one thing to do, right? One chore, get someone to be able to do great in an interview or to host a podcast. And that is really hard to do, by the way, to do well. But what I realize is that the bigger questions are understanding what you're actually doing. And I worked with a doctor who said, well, I want people to live their best life. I want them to feel great. I was like, so does the person who sells clothing. So does the person who sells vitamin C supplements. You've got to figure out what that thing is. And you have one. It turns out that my sweet spot, and look, it's an evolving process, and I'm learning this myself, is figuring out exactly what it is that you just know how to do it. You almost don't even have to think about it. And you're like, oh, I get so psyched. Someone gives you that problem and you're psyched to solve it. That's how you know. Now, take the thing that you're psyched to solve for someone, and how do you make it compelling to that other person? Let's take, for instance, a ghostwriter. A ghostwriter who loves to write and doesn't really necessarily have a book maybe of her own she wants to do, but she loves to listen to people and get their story and turn it into something great. She just likes to do it. Well, no one's going to hire a ghostwriter just because a ghostwriter likes ghostwriting. But if the ghostwriter bills his or herself as saying, I can read your mind and I can be the version of you who majored in English. Like, that's pretty awesome. I mean, I just made that up. Maybe it's not the best thing ever, but you see what I'm saying? I make it be like, don't you wish you could get your thoughts on paper the way you feel them and think them? That's what I do. That's better than ghostwrite, because people don't really even know. They kind of know that. Is, are you going to write my book for me? No. I take over your soul and I put it on paper. Whoa. I guarantee you, if you're a ghostwriter, and you can use that, by the way, and you went with it, that's like a new way of looking at what you do and what problem you're solving. If I say, okay, for instance, if I say, I make these hair clips. I always keep one nearby, by the way. I make these hair clips. What I want people to do is buy the hair clip. So I'm going to tell everyone, hey, you know, you really need this hair clip. You could use it because you could, like, stick it in your hair like that. Like, you should really use this hair clip. You should really use it. Well, why? Because it's the best hair clip, and I'm so passionate about making hair clips. It's made from the finest plastic, manufactured in China. Okay. Until you say, don't you hate when it's really, this is really pushing it with the hair clip, but don't you hate when it's really hot out and you don't want to put a dent in your hair with an elastic, but you just want to get your hair off your neck and you want it to be super simple, you don't need a mirror? Well, yeah, I want that. Oh, I make this thing that does that for you. You've solved the need. I get hot and sweaty, which I do, and I like to pull it up and put it up. And I want to be able to do that. But you're going from the problem in instead of the product out. Now, let me pause here. Questions. And unmute yourself and pop on. I want to know, where do you get stuck? Is there someone who wants to share a quick example of where they go, oh, but I don't know how to differentiate? Anyone want to pop up? We're in a safe place here. All friends. I'll give you an example. No, I'm not, because I just totally forgot what that example was. Wait a minute. Oh, yes. Here's another issue. A lot of people will think about their brand and try to do it with regard to what they're afraid of. They do brand by avoidance. And the best example I can think of for that is when I work with, and I've worked with many fitness pros, fit pros, you know, people who make a living teaching people how to be in touch with their bodies, exercise, lift weights, yoga, whatever. And I can't tell you how many of them, who no one knows, by the way, these are fit pros, unknown. And they say, well, I don't want to be like Jillian Michaels. I said, that's good, because Jillian Michaels' job is already taken. Jillian Michaels already has that job. But the fear is, oh, I don't want to be that thing because she's so blah, blah, blah. I can't tell you how many people hate Jillian Michaels, but Jillian Michaels is laughing away to the bank. Jillian Michaels did a thing that most people cannot do, which is be a memorable brand in a very, very populated field. I mean, fitness pros are everywhere, right? Everyone knows who she is. I can't tell you how many doctors hate Dr. Oz, including the guy who was giving me a root canal, who in the middle of it was trying to tell me why he was really angry at Dr. Oz. And I was like, let's not talk about that, because I don't want you angry when you're giving me a root canal. But he just hated them, and so many doctors do. Part of it's envy. Part of it's like, well, that's not who they are. They shouldn't be doing this. That's brand, and not that he was talking about his brand, but if you look at your own brand and you say, I just don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like a this. It's like, well, why? Because that person's obviously pretty awesome, because we both know who they are. If you try to define by what you're not, like you might say, well, Jillian Michaels is really obnoxious and she yells at people, and I'm going to be like the nice fit pro. I'm like, and you'll also be the nice unknown fit pro. Not that you have to be mean, but there has to be something about what you do that's memorable. That's totally you. Now, let me tell you another area that's very populated. Life and business coaches. Oh my God, are there a million of those? And in fact, I talked with and worked with a woman who owns a life coaching academy. I'll give her a plug, a Beautiful You Coaching Academy. She's terrific. And she says the days of the generalist life coach are over. The idea that you're going to hire a coach who can help you in any area of your life, I don't know about that. What you can get now is a money coach, a writing coach, a fitness coach. You get coaches for specific things. The future belongs to people who specialize in that regard. And one woman, I'll tell you, that I just met her not that long ago, is a woman named Allison Carmen, who is also a life and business coach. And you say, okay, yeah, and her thing, she looked at her story of origin. Why did she become this? What fueled it? She's a former lawyer. And what happened with her is she said, well, her problem was that she said if she didn't know how something was going to turn out, she was sure it was going to turn out bad. She says, in her words, she was addicted to certainty. Now, we're all a little bit addicted to certainty, control freaks like myself. But she said, well, that's my thing, and I help people deal with that. And she landed on a word that worked for her that way. The word is maybe. It's a great word because it was the key and the heart of everything she does. Maybe. She wrote a book called The Gift of Maybe. I'm working with her ultimately, hopefully, on a series of information products about how to get people to live that in their lives. Now, one word, embracing maybe, changed her life, and she uses that to change other people's lives. Now you think, oh, great. Now I have to come up with one word that does what who I am. Well, that's a good exercise, actually, to write down a bunch of words that describe what you do. But more than that is to write down, this is a great exercise too, is to write down a list of words that you think and hope people use when they describe you. And nice should not be on that list, okay? Can we lose nice? Is it that you're forthright and strong and convicted, conviction. You have conviction, you're energizing, or is that you're super open-minded and flexible? And that, get into the words of what you do. That's an exercise I'm going to be doing next Friday. I'm doing an in-person half-day workshop, by the way. You've probably seen me say stuff about it. I'll mention it now. It's called Nail Your Brand and Revitalize Your Business. It's going to be 3 hours of this deep dive into figuring out where that sweet spot is. And part of it is writing down the words. Of course, I'm a words person. That's how I work. That's how I think. And probably so are you if you're in the communications business. What words describe and define what you do? And then what words would be different? For me, I really like the word compelling. I love the word compelling. I've been hanging everything on that word because passion, that's some people's word. It's not mine. I'm certainly passionate. But compelling is, to me, the thing that drives it home. What is the word that drives home what you do for people? That's the first step. Forgetting the things that you're afraid of sounding like. Kicking the beehive on the way you've been doing and thinking about things, because that is a problem if you're always thinking about it the same way. Letting it get a little bit messy. And thinking about the kind of problem that you want to solve specifically. And imagine it. It's your typical, customer avatar exercise. That's a lot to think about. I told you, all muscle, no fat, and it's too much. I know. This is recorded. It's on YouTube. You can go back, slow it down, only listen to a minute of it a day. If you can't handle it, they think, oh my God, she's driving me insane. That's what to think about. But I want to take questions. You're being very shy, in fact. Are there any issues that you have that you're like, can you just tell me what my struggle with XYZ is? Anybody? Wonder why it says no viewers when I clearly see you there.
Hi, Terry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm really enjoying this, and I'm just starting out. For a while, I was going by kind of, freelance writer, content producer, and I watched one of your shows that said, don't use the word freelance. So I'm trying to kind of develop that a little more and figure out where I stand, but I'm having a hard time honing in. So I'm just wondering any advice you have for that.
Good. Now, Gina happens to be a very strong writer. She's been writing for a million years. She has her master's in writing. And the tricky part when you're a writer is like, oh, a jack of all trades. I can do anything. I'll write about whatever you want. You can, and many writers do, take whatever jobs come down the pike if they want to. I mean, you can act like a freelancer without calling yourself that. And by the way, sometimes people are looking for freelancers, and if you want those jobs, it's okay. You can have freelancer in your LinkedIn. I mean, people do search by that. I just want you to stop thinking like a freelancer, where it's like, I'll just fill in whatever jobs come up. Now, it does help as a writer if you do pick an area that you are the strongest in, that excites you the most, that you're like, oh, I love writing about this stuff. Like, I don't write about politics or sports, like hard news. It's not my world. So I wouldn't take jobs like that. I would be like, oh no. When you think about, I want you to think about two things, and this applies to writing and applies to other things too. Not just, oh, I can only pick one topic to write about. No. But what is the thing you think you do the best? Some people are really just beautiful writers, but you can't talk to them for shit. You know, they're just horrible to talk to. Some are really great journalist style where they pull out stuff from someone. They can get all this great information out. And of course, it's a given. If you're going to get work as a writer, you have to be a good writer. But is your thing on, like, think about what you do well that people value the most in what you do. So if you're like, okay, a good writer, like to me those two words are like, oh great, everyone knows a good writer. No one goes, oh, I know a bad writer you could use. So it's a given you have to be good. The other part is, focus on the process that you like. Do you like ghosting, for instance? Do you like listening to people and helping make their stories real and have a structure and be real on the page? Or do you like to take someone else's writing and make it way sexier? Do you like to infuse a voice? I like to create a voice for people's writing. That's my thing. Gina, I know that you're very good at what you do, and you're also in learning to apply what you do to other things. But it's tricky. It's a bit of a moving target. It's not like, well, I only write about sports. By the way, if you do write about sports and that's your thing, and you're like, I just want to do this thing, terrific. Then you say, okay, inside of the sports writing, what do I do that makes my stuff special? And by the way, you don't have to do this inside of your brain. I have done this, and I encourage you to do it too, to send out a survey to your friends and colleagues. By the way, they can fill it out anonymously. I know Paula Rizzo, who's on the call, is a fan of SurveyMonkey and Google Forms. And there's lots of free tools where you could write to your old clients and your colleagues and say, hey, I'd love you to fill this out. What do you think of that as my what do you find are my greatest strengths? As a worker, maybe, as a writer, or as a professional, because how you are as a professional might be different as how you are as a writer. Same thing with any of the things you guys do. You can have your own focus group, essentially. And I have asked people, and what people tell you are going to be like, oh, I didn't even know people like that about me. Because sometimes they don't tell you, they just think it. Oh, I love Gina, she's so blah, blah, blah. And you never know. So you've got to ask the people you trust. Do it and send it to me, send it to people that you know. I'll happily fill it out. And also talking to people who you'd like to work with, by the way, and saying, what are the kinds of problems that you need solving? Say you're talking to someone who needs, they're like, we need content. And you're like, well, what kind of content? What to ask that person is, what kind of content do you need? What do you want that content to do? Great writing on its own, if it doesn't persuade you to take action, I don't see the point. It has to do something. So when you narrow it down and figure out, you're like, is that something I want to do? Is that something I'm really good at? When I was coaching people, and I have to let you guys go in a minute here, as I was coaching people, I was like, I'm just teaching them how to talk on the radio, but what is the thing that sparks something in the other person? I do all my calls like this, right on the computer. And I see what they get excited about, and I thought, oh, that's something I'm doing that I didn't realize has value. You have to assign value to the kinds of things people are like, oh my God, I need that. I mean, like a press release, okay? No one's reading press releases, really, and it's not hard to write them. They don't have to blow you away. That's fine. That's that kind of writing. But if you're going to do something that's powerful, it has to be able to blow someone away. And I got really excited about doing the coaching when I realized how much it changed other people. Your work is always in relation to someone else. And if no one cared and no one wanted media coaching in the world, and everyone's like, nah, we got this, it wouldn't be very exciting for me to do because I have to be convincing people why they needed it. I have to find another need to fill. But you, Gina, and everyone else have to think about the need you're filling that you love to fill and not just the things you can do. Make sense?
Right.
It's a process.
Yeah,
Look,
definitely. Thank you.
Right? It takes you a while. It takes me a while. It took me till like this year to really nail it. And maybe 2 years from now I'll shift it again. That's okay. But start with this, you guys. Look at your websites. If your website is just a digital mirror of who you are and what you like doing and what you've done, you better give me a way to hire you. If you want to make your brand make money, I need a reason to hire you. And I need to know how, and I need your site to tell me how. I changed that on my own site. It's like, here's a lot of stuff by me, but then I have services. Here's what I can do. And by the way, I just looked at those services, and I was like, oh, I have other services now. So, like, I may change those up. The goal should be to continue to hone to what you do well, because that's how you stand out, by doing that thing better, because you do that one thing like no one else does. That's the job. Doesn't happen today. Won't happen by next week. but it can happen. And that is what I'm hoping to work on. And hang on a second. I wrote down in my little brainstorm notebook, let me see what I'm doing with you guys next week. Yeah, we did that. We got to talk about your brand voice and your content. What kind of content are you using and sharing and writing? That is a big problem for a lot of people, and not everyone likes to write. And as you know, there's Gina, there's a lot of writers who are ready to do it. Well, what's not only what you're trying to do for people, but how are you approaching them? What's the relationship? You know, when people do this like corporate speak, like this big, like, here's who we are, anyone wanting to buy us, like, that doesn't work. Everything happens in relationship between two people, just about all of it. And we'll explore that next time here on Power Lunch. And I really want to thank you guys for joining. It is 12:30. Time for you to go get a snack before you get back to the grind. I welcome your feedback. Please email me. I want feedback. I always want to do it better. I kind of already know how I can make these better. Terri at terrijustbeshow.com. Be honest, be brutal, and share it with people who you know would enjoy it. I think this is going to be the link. I think I have to just live with that. Okay? So we'll talk to you guys, and I'll stick around here for a few minutes if anyone has questions. But get back to it. Oh, well, it looks like my sound is down, part of it. It happens.
Terri, your sound was fine.
Oh, it must have been Paula's connection then.
Yeah, it was fine.
Love?
What? I'm doing good. See if I can... Where am I? There I am. There you are. That was wonderful. I don't have a question, so I'm just going to go back on mute. I just wanted to say hi.
Okay. That's Nagar, everybody. Lovely Nagar, who's just a brilliant Duke University professor, literary critic, and author. She happens to live 2 doors down, so she is joining us from there. But Nagar, this is Irina, who's a photographer.
Hi.
Is that Warren over there? No, Theo. Sorry. Hey, Theo.
Okay. There I go.
Thanks, Nagar. All right. Well, I'm going to get back to it, too. Feel free to reach out anytime. And we'll talk to you guys later. Mwah!